So you guys know that Tucker Carlson is still doing a show, but it's on Twitter, right? It's getting more views than his Fox show. Recently, he made a statement that I think everybody needs to be paying attention to. Because if this happens, I'm going to say you saw it here first. Okay. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if this happens, you can say you saw it here first. He made a statement recently on his show. By the way, this received 13.4 million views. Let me go ahead and share the screen so you can see it. 13.4 million views. Look at this. But he went on to say, he's talking about the war in Ukraine, but he also mentioned something towards the end of this conversation that I think you need to pay attention to. Tucker Carlson believes that Gavin Newsom is basically being lined up to replace Joe Biden. Let's listen to part of the Ukraine rhetoric first, and then we'll get to that point because I have some things to show you.
Closer to nuclear annihilation than any time in human history. Why exactly are we at war with Russia? It seems like there's a pretty significant downside to this particular foreign policy decision, starting with economic collapse and ending potentially with extinction. So is there a good reason we're doing it? So many innocent young people have been killed. So many hundreds of billions of dollars have been wasted, some of them from the U.S. Treasury. So what's the point? Are we really doing this so the Biden family can repay its debts to the oligarchs who finance their beach house in Rehoboth? Are we doing it so our government can continue to lie about its illicit biolabs in Eastern Europe? So that flabby losers like Toria Nuland and Tony Blinken can feel like they're doing something important with their sad, empty lives? Really? Honestly, there's got to be a better reason for waging this, the most pointless war of all. What is it? Well, thankfully, we have an answer. The war against Russia, ladies and gentlemen, the war against Putin and for Ukraine is, in fact, a war for democracy. Watch and recall the motive.
The president has said many times we're focused on what we can do to support Ukraine's effort to fight for their democracy.
Democracy must prevail. The Ukrainian people are fighting the fight for their democracy, and in doing so, for ours as well.
They always use this term, democracy. I think those of us who have been paying attention know that this is an effort, obviously, to remove Vladimir Putin. It is an effort in reference to regime change. That's what this is really about. That's what the U.S. government wants to happen. And we saw that information revealed through the Pentagon document leaks. That's what Biden is up to.
Assisting and helping Ukraine win this fight for democracy and freedom.
And of course, Ukrainian President Zelensky understands that what's at stake in Ukraine is bigger than just his nation. It is literally a battle for freedom and democracy themselves.
They are showing the world what an existential fight for democracy looks like.
President Zelensky and the Ukrainians have changed the course of history for the better. And we unequivocally are with the Ukrainian people in their fight to remain a sovereign democracy.
Unequivocally with the Ukrainian people to remain a democracy. It's a bipartisan view. Democracy must prevail. You just heard noted democracy expert Nancy Pelosi say, the daughter of the mobbed-up mayor of Baltimore. As Pelosi puts it, the Ukrainian people are fighting the fight for their democracy and for ours as well. That's right, for ours as well. Without Ukrainian democracy, in other words, we can have no democracy here. If the Ukrainians aren't free, neither are we. We must make sure they can vote in Kiev so we can continue to vote in Kansas City. It's really that simple. And yet tonight, we regret to tell you that we have a problem. It looks like they're not going to be able to vote in Kiev anymore.
There you go.
And no, for once, it's not Putin's fault. Democracy in Ukraine seems to be suspended by the world's foremost democracy advocate himself, Field Marshal Zelensky. Watch this.
Чи будуть в Україні наступного року вибори?
Це ж питання глобальне. І якщо ми переможемо, то будуть. Значить, не буде військового часу.
So I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but basically Zelensky is basically telling the Ukrainian people that they will have elections if they win. That's not democracy. You don't hear the Biden administration talking about that, though.
не буде війни. А вибори повинні проходити у мирний час, коли немає війни, згідно законодавства.
So when you have an election, well, he says if we win, we'll let people vote. Otherwise, no. You vote when we feel like it, because ultimately we're completely in charge and make all the rules. Your job is to obey or be punished. That's our version of self-government. Self means me. I'm the government.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not just any autocrat. That's our chief ally in the war for democracy. This is the guy who just announced he's likely to cancel next year's elections.
Yep.
So you've got to wonder what the Biden administration thinks of this. We can't possibly continue to support Zelensky, that guy, after he said that, can we? Because in a clip less than 30 seconds long, he just blew up our entire rationale for supporting his side in the war.
But they'll still support him. They'll still continue to send money. This should be a big red flag for people. The next time you hear Joe Biden or you hear people, actually his press secretary as well, when you hear people like Nancy Pelosi and all of them say we have to save democracy, I want you to remember this clip. I want you to remember the fact that how can you say that and you're supporting a country where the leader just basically told their people that you're not even going to have elections unless we win? That doesn't make any sense.
So we can't support him. Oh, of course we can. And we will. Here's Joe Biden from yesterday reaffirming America's unequivocal support for Ukraine.
No matter what happened in Russia, we, the United States, will continue to support Ukraine's defense and its sovereignty and its territorial integrity.
So that's your answer in reference to that. Now, I want to get to the piece here where he brings in the Gavin Newsom issue, and then we're going to go to that Gavin Newsom interview. Let me make sure we get right about here.
Problem. If Joe Biden is reelected next year and then forced to leave office during his term due to disability or death, that means Kamala Harris will become president of the United States. And nobody wants that, not even her husband.
I've been trying to warn people about that. Pass this on to your friends. If you vote for Joe Biden in 2024, my belief is that if he wins, Joe Biden is going to resign that same year. Obviously, we see he's experiencing cognitive decline. I don't think that he would actually stay in office. If that happens, then Kamala Harris is your president, boo. Kamala is your president. Do you really want Kamala Harris making decisions about foreign policy? Think about that. So what could they possibly do? And I think the White House understands this, that Kamala Harris, her approval rating is not favorable as well. So what they could do in turn is to line up someone else who may have a stronger approval rating to take that spot. And now you may sit back and wonder, well, how could they do that? Is that even legal? DNC can do what they want. They argued this in court. Refer back to the DNC fraud lawsuit. They select the candidate. End of story. End of story.
In real life, nobody likes Kamala Harris. That's not an attack on her. In fact, it's possible to feel pity for someone who's so universally reviled. It is instead an observation of unchanging physical reality like gravity or photosynthesis. Nobody wants Kamala Harris to be president. No one will benefit if she becomes president. So logic suggests there's going to be a change. It's going to have to be somebody else. And whoever that person is going to have to enter the race soon, before the election, after Biden drops out. Who could that person be? We don't know, obviously. This is all just guessing. But we do know whoever that is will have to have two essential criteria. He'll have to be as shallow, ruthless, and transactional as Joe Biden is, and he'll need to have flattery skills that are so polished and advanced they'd be considered superior even in the Saudi royal court. And there's only one man in modern America who fits that description: Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and perhaps not coincidentally, Joe Biden's new closest friend. I am here, Mr. President, Newsom told Biden at an event the two did together last week. I am here as a proud American, as a proud Californian, mesmerized by not just your faith and your devotion to this country and the world we're trying to build, but by your results, by your action, by your passion, by your capacity to deliver. I am mesmerized by you, Joe Biden. Imagine saying that as a compliment. You couldn't do it. Few human beings could do it. But Gavin Newsom had no problem at all. Those words rolled right off his forked tongue. He never stopped smiling. So if you're looking for the leader of the coup, there he is right there.
Okay. Now, is that true? Do you think that it's possible that that is who they are lining up next is Gavin Newsom? So I have noticed something, and I'm going to start with this interview that he had with Sean Hannity. Gavin Newsom has been making a lot of appearances recently, a lot of interviews recently, out there defending Joe Biden, telling people to still support Joe Biden. You also have to remember that Gavin Newsom is related to Nancy Pelosi. Think about this, people. Put this in line. A lot of people don't know that. They're related by marriage. So, of course, they would try to line up someone like Gavin Newsom. He'll just be another neoliberal shill. My thing is, fix California. You're the governor of California. He had a recall. I was trying to think of what it was referred to. He had a recall. That was just about a year ago because he implemented pandemic rules that apparently did not apply to him. And this is who they want because he fits that status quo. He's out there now telling people he agrees with Medicare for all. You guys seeing this stuff? Now, all of a sudden, he agrees with Medicare for all. He's supporting public banking initiative in California, by the way, FYI. Where's all this coming from if he isn't thinking about running, if not now, in the future? Where's it all coming from? Listen to this interview that he had with Sean Hannity. You see him just consistently make excuses for Joe Biden. Listen to this.
These are post-COVID jobs. You know that.
Well,
I mean, that's an artificial number.
No. Then let me stipulate this as an opportunity to engage civilly on this.
Okay.
Fair point. Your president, Donald Trump, lost 2.6 million jobs during his 4 years. We've created 13.1 million. Fine, you can maintain a COVID frame. How about the fact that Joe Biden's created more jobs, 6 times more jobs than the previous 3 Republican presidents combined?
Every time you hear this line, I want you to respond with, what are the jobs? Because they never tell you what these jobs are that Joe Biden created. I mentioned this on Rising as well. What are the jobs? Are they full-time jobs, part-time jobs, temp positions, contract positions? A lot of the available positions here in Massachusetts are contract positions with no benefits. They don't tell you what the jobs are. How much are these jobs paying? Minimum wage? $15 an hour? $25 an hour? They don't tell you. Let's go on.
Are you going to tell me
Sean,
that the average family, where we have 2/3 of Americans now living paycheck to paycheck,
it was 70% under Trump. That was 70%. It was 70% under Donald Trump.
Pre-COVID, we had the lowest unemployment rate for every demographic.
We have the lowest black unemployment in history, and you and I are living with the lowest unemployment in our lifetime, Sean.
Low unemployment does not mean that you are being paid a living wage. They never mention the fact that he kicked people off of unemployment. Gavin Newsom won't mention that. He's not going to tell you that. So put the 2 and 2 together. Let's go on.
You had it for every demographic, and the economy was
black unemployment's record low under Joe Biden.
Okay, we had historic low.
Got to bring in black people. Look at what we've done for you, black people. Don't you love the Democratic Party? Your unemployment is low now. Aren't you proud of us?
Low after historic low under Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. I mean, but He's
Here's what I don't
cleaned
want to have
Trump's
happen.
clock, Biden, in terms of the progress in job creation.
You
Look at what he's done on
so what would
jobs.
you grade Joe Biden's presidency? Because
Well,
you're at odds with the American people and the Democratic
Well,
Party.
I'm just dealing with
What's
the
your grade?
facts. I'm dealing with the facts.
What is your grade for
I'm
him?
going to go back. Let's talk. You brought up 6 topics.
You got to
Now,
answer some questions.
I'm answering the ones in order.
what
You
is-
brought up the economy. On the economy, let's talk about the economy.
You want to give him an A?
Inflation, stubborn around the globe. Let's talk about inflation. It's down 40% since last summer, 10 months in a row, 4.9%. He was.
That's not what the grocery store prices tell me. That's not what the gas prices tell me, Gavin.
Just with the UK Prime Minister, it's 6.9%. Is that because of Biden's?
I think
Fed
Biden's
policy?
economic and energy policies
Directly impacted the UK's inflation?
No, I am
Or the
telling
fact that France is 5.5% or Germany's at
You're gonna give-
6.1%?
you're not-
On inflation, we're moving in the right direction. On the
In France, people are protesting in the streets over the pension reform and recently police brutality. We'll talk about that story probably Sunday, actually. Okay, France is not a good example to mention right now.
The issue of the border security.
He
after
inherited
Carlson.
1.4% inflation. It went up to 40-year high after 40-year high.
Globally, because you just brought up,
so
you were making
you're
an
gonna give-
excuse for Trump's dismal jobs record related to COVID.
It wasn't a
but you
dismal
won't acknowledge
jobs record.
COVID's relationship to inflation globally. And by the way, COVID
let me
and
stop you for a
immigration
second. All right.
impacting our inflation.
What did they offer Gavin Newsom? What deal did they make with Gavin Newsom? Hey, Gavin, you go out there and support Joe Biden. You know, Biden's not doing too well. Would you be interested in his seat if he were to resign? We just got to get him over the finish line. Like Jamal Bowman said at that meeting in DC, we got to drag this guy over the finish line. Why? You don't have to do anything. What is going on here? Was he promised some position in the Biden administration? Am I seriously sitting here believe that Gavin Newsom is just doing this because he's a nice person? What was promised to Gavin Newsom, people? You want to talk about inflation? You want to talk about the economy? How about the fact that the homelessness rate has increased? They don't bring that up. They don't mention that. They want to talk about jobs being created. Why are all these homeless people out in the street? Gavin? More people. Every month is more people. If you're in the Boston area, go over to the Boston Medical Center. Go over to BMC. The number of people continue to increase. But they don't mention that. But the economy is great.
Let me stop you. All right, so I would assume you're
That's
going to give Biden an A. Here's the problem that Joe Biden has. You're arguing, you're fighting, you're battling, you're articulate. We could sit here for 3 hours, probably have a beer or two in the middle of this, and you can keep going. Here's the problem. Your president can't have this conversation. He's not capable of it. Now my question is a serious one.
All right.
Okay, is Joe Biden up to the job of being president? And as a little reminder, take a look at your president in the monitor.
And there's an awful lot of stories that are told, but probably a bunch apocryphal about the former prime minister. Like you take baths up that. Anyway.
Wandering around at 3 a.m. Yeah, Winston Churchill.
By the way, I met with who are those guys that fly over shortly? You heard of them, haven't you? And the cheer for Muslim, we cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem Abdul Jabbar. I know him, and I mispronounced his name. So I'm trying to think. Where was the last place I was? It's hard to keep track. I mean, yeah, you're right. Ireland. That's where it was. EIGH%. He said, "You're too much. You're too much like that guy who led the revolution instead of the guy who was the prime minister." He said, "You got to be less like the military guy." They shot him. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
The damn
And then you
shame.
got Joe Biden who's having a hard time standing up. Take a look at that one.
Mm-hmm. It's embarrassing. It's a
I
damn
want you to
shame.
tell me that you think he is cognitively strong enough to lead this country against China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and a new axis of evil, and that he's the guy, he cannot articulate the economy the way you just did.
Yeah, but
Is he cognitively well enough for the job? Listen to what Gavin Newsom says.
I don't think he's capable. I know he's capable. I see.
What? Look, this goes beyond forgetting people's names. This goes beyond mispronouncing names, forgetting who people are. This goes beyond that. Joe Biden physically can't stand. And after watching all that, he goes, I know he's capable. How do you know, Gavin? Just blatant lies. Blatant lies. But Gavin Newsom has to say that because something was promised to him.
Results. I've seen a masterclass in results the last few years. You don't see the results on the CHIPS Act. You don't see the results on the infrastructure. You had infrastructure.
I don't see the results on any CHIPS Act. I don't see any results. Do you guys? I don't see any results in reference to infrastructure. If with the infrastructure issue, answer me, guys. All these potholes, bridges still falling apart. These examples that they give are useless.
Every week for 4
CHIPS Act,
years.
we're still importing them all from Taiwan, which is about to be taken over by China.
We had $4 billion proof point just here in California with Applied Materials, bringing semiconductor investment back here in the state of California. My point being,
we're going to talk.
Don't bring up California, Gavin. Your state is not doing too well. And I want to give you a couple examples. How many people left California within the past 5 years? How many people? A mass exodus has happened in his state that he governs because California is so damn expensive and people can't afford it. People are leaving California and moving to places like Arizona and Texas. Gavin, that's your state. Don't use that as an example. This is my thing. You need to focus on fixing California. Your state has the highest homeless population in the country. And from what I've seen, especially CJ was on Skid Row, from what I've seen, pictures and videos that have been sent to me, you can't walk, one block in LA without seeing homeless people? San Francisco? What? Give me a break.
Talk about
real results, but bipartisan results, real results, jobs programs, the IRA. I know you don't like it. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars in green energy investment, mostly in red states. You're the biggest beneficiary.
What job programs? What are the programs? See, they never tell you. They never tell you.
Of the IRA.
He raised taxes on oil, gas, coal, pensions, and, quote, taxes corporations. Corporations don't pay taxes. They pass the cost on to consumers. That's all they do. You know that.
On the issue of energy independence, I think it was your second of the list of items.
Do you think he's cognitively strong enough to be president?
I have conversations with him all the time, yes. And I'll tell you what.
That is a damn lie. Not the part about him having conversations with him, but the part about him being cognitively sound to lead this country. But pay attention to what he just told you. I have conversations with him all the time. So you got to end with Joe Biden like that, Gavin Newsom? Where you can just have conversations with him all the time?
What
you do?
I'm dead serious about that. I've talked to him when he's been overseas. I've been in Air Force One, Marine One. I've been in the limo with him. I've spent time with him.
Okay, but you never answered my question directly. How many times does your phone ping a day, people saying you need to get in this race because they agree with me that he's not up to the job?
I see
That's a
where
fair
I
question.
see where you're going with that.
I'm
Sean.
asking.
No, and I'm not answering.
Under any circumstances.
Why not? Why not? He just told you, he said he's not answering. Why will he answer that question? Because people have been asking him to run. That's why. This is Gavin Newsom took this interview to defend Joe Biden, to in some way, shape, or form encourage the American people and convince the American people that Joe Biden still has it together, and he obviously does not. He out here doing PR for Joe Biden. You done answered every question that Sean Hannity has given you, but when it comes to how often is your phone being pinged for people asking you to run, all of a sudden, I'm not going to answer that question. Because if he were to answer it, then that basically is a way of saying that, or admitting that he's not sound enough to continue to be president.
Says, would you get in this primary?
No.
None.
I really am proud. I think he's a man of decency and character. I'm really proud of the president. I'm proud of what he's accomplished.
Decency and character. The crime bill. Tara Reid's accusations. Silence in Tara Reid. That's decency. Can't keep his hands off women. That's not decent. But again, like I told you, Gavin Newsom is related to Nancy Pelosi by marriage. And Nancy Pelosi is friends with Joe Biden. They look out for each other.
Is he strong enough to be president? That's I'm
strong enough.
talking
Look
about
what he just did to McCarthy. He ran circles. Look at the vote card.
I didn't like the vote. I wouldn't have voted.
Still not answering the question. Deflecting. That was a yes or no question.
For it.
Exactly. Kevin got played by the president of the United States. I'm for results. I'm for results.
I don't think the American people benefit. I like the plan that would have saved $4.8 trillion. All right. Now, so we're at a point. I think you are far more articulate, far more versed, far more energetic. I have this theory that people are going to come calling because I don't think in your party they think he's the guy. No. Just my thought. Now I've got a bunch of. Well, look, I don't want to make this an argument. I want you to explain, because my argument to you is conservative policies work. Okay. You know, I don't care if it's Ronald Reagan. I don't care if it's Newt Gingrich's contract. I don't care if it's Donald Trump's 4 years as president. Got it. I believe his policies work. Right. Peace through strength work, building up our military, building a wall, enforcing law and order, energy independence, which Biden gave up, which he didn't bring up.
Which I'm happy to direct.
Let me show you a list of corporate headquarters that are leaving your state in well,
here we go.
I look forward to having this conversation.
There you go.
It's not even just corporate headquarters. What Sean Hannity should have brought up are the people who are leaving California in droves because they can't afford it. They just can't afford it.
Well aware.
Corporate headquarters, they're leaving. Look at San Francisco in particular. They're closing down because they can't keep their product in the store because they're getting robbed. I got another one for you. Okay. Seasonally adjusted business applications. You always bring up Florida. Yeah. I compared you to Florida. I think you have a higher population, if I'm not mistaken.
A significantly higher population.
Why are they doing better in business formulation?
Well, we'll have to take a look at that in more detail.
Take a look.
I'm happy that we're looking forward. How many more of these you have? Let's go.
About 8.
Bring them on.
Bring them all on.
Bring them all on. Let's have this conversation.
Okay. Let me ask you. This is a tough question for you.
I don't think it will be. Well, let's find out.
All right. So you're the first governor in history that has had a net migration out of the Golden State. Go west, young man.
Yep.
I lived here by the way, I lived here 5 years.
Horace Greeley.
I was the poorest guy in Santa Barbara at the time in the early 80s. If you look at, I want you to really look at this and explain for the years 2021 and 2022 why Florida is taking in nearly 1,000 people a day, and you're losing 800 people a day.
Because it's too expensive to live there.
They're leaving. Tell me why they're leaving your state.
So we'll stop at 3, or you want to do the whole?
No. We'll just answer one at a time.
18 states. 18 states had declines in population. California's was 0.3%. You didn't bring up any of the red states that had decline in populations. It's an interesting fact.
Your state has the largest homeless population, Gavin. Your state. not the other states.
And I don't see it on here. An interesting omitted fact.
What's that?
Per capita, more Floridians moved to California than Californians moving to Florida. That, I don't imagine, is in one of your 8 slides. Let me take another.
That statement is flawed because it's not a matter of Californians moving to Florida and Floridians moving to California. The people leaving California are moving to Texas and Arizona. That's where most of those people are going. So it just, for you to just be like, well, they're not moving to Florida, it doesn't matter. They're leaving. Damn it. They're leaving.
Stab at this. In 2021, California had 7.8% of GDP growth in this country, one of the fastest growing economies anywhere on planet Earth.
That doesn't mean anything when the people are homeless and the people are not paid a living wage and they can't afford to live there. How many people in California can afford to buy a home?
The state continues to be the 10th pole of the American economy. 25.6% of all American jobs came from this state in April. In the last,
how much of those numbers that he just gave you is a result of the Hollywood movie industry? How much of those numbers that he gave you in reference to the economy? You got to think about California. You got the Hollywood movie industry. You have the music business in California. So you have Capitol Records and all them. And if you want to go further north, places like San Francisco, you have the tech industry there. That's what's bringing money into California. That's what's helping the economy in California. That's why he has those numbers. That doesn't mean people are being paid a living wage. That doesn't mean people can afford to buy a home in California. That doesn't mean people can afford to live there. So your GDP and your numbers and all that is bullshit to me, because you're not even mentioning the fact of what I just told everybody, where most of the money is coming from in that state.
last 2 fiscal years, we enjoyed $177.7 billion in operating surpluses. We're on our way to be the 4th largest economy, eat your heart out, Germany, in the world. Number 1 in R&D, venture capital, more scientists, researchers, more Nobel laureates, more patents emanating out of this state than any other state in America. With all due respect,
I'm done with him. Because the thing is, California has become basically a rich man's playground. That's who it's for now. It's not for working class people. It's definitely not for poor people, not even middle class people. Like, give me a break. It's for the Silicon Valley tech bros, Hollywood actors, producers, directors, in the music business. Those the people particularly doing well in California. My best friend from high school is a lawyer in California. She can't afford to buy a home. She rents her home. What does that tell you? So we'll have to stay tuned and see if they're trying to line him up to replace Biden. It'll be interesting to see.